Hey there, Preacher fans. Welcome to the AfterBuzz Preacher Show. Stay tuned because we are talking about Preacher Season 3, Episode 2, Angelville.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Good energy.
Welcome, everybody, to the Preacher After Show here at AfterBuzz TV. We are talking about Preacher Season 3, Episode 2, Angelville. I am your host, Alana Jordan, and today joining me...
Nate Miller.
I'm Dave Child.
And today, this was a really good episode.
Oh, it was so good.
This was really awesome. We're going to be breaking down the episode, talking about what we liked about it, talking about some predictions a little later on. We're going to also have our chat up as well, and also be sure to stick around after we wrap for the episode, because we're going to be talking about some comic spoilers as well. We don't want to spoil that for anybody early on. So, overall, what did you guys think about this episode?
Remember in the first season when we took so much time to tell a story, and it's just nice to see in this season it's just like boom, 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 next thing, next thing, next thing. There wasn't even like, you know, Airstar showed up at the door, like he was already there. It was great. I just love how fast it's moving already, like episode 2. I hope they keep up this pace.
I agree 100%.
You took what I was going to say.
Well,
I mean, it's
it's
only
the
2
thing.
episodes, so I'm still a little bit reserved. But so far, the pacing has been awesome. It's nice to get beats to the story. And also, they've done a great job of giving us questions and then giving us little tidbits of answers, but still more questions.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. I enjoyed this episode.
I agree 100%. I feel like the second episode of each season tends to be a little bit more indicative of the pacing and the structure of the season as a whole than the first. The first, to me, especially, I mean, more with pilots, but even going into second and third seasons, is kind of just a little bit of a refresher and like, hey, get warmed up for what's to come. I really, really hope that they do keep this pacing, because everything in this just tied perfectly into the next thing. And having these flashbacks that we're getting to of Jesse is awesome, and having that to where we saw a little bit last season, kind of the adolescent Jesse too, which is how we kicked off this episode. So we get to see his backstory of him in high school.
See the darkness that he's coming from. We see, I love that in the previous episode too, we saw a flashback with his mom. And we saw that what happened was he kind of took over his mom's position, where he's kind of the face of the operation. He's the one that's able to bring people in, because no one else is a very good face for that. No one else is just like, I'll trust you, creepy old lady, and 2 giant hillbilly and the creepiest hillbilly ever. Like, it's...
You look like someone who would wear a human face over your face.
Right. By the way, one of my favorite lines of, I think, the entire show was in this episode, where it's Cass being like, oh, please tell me you are the worst one here.
Oh my God.
And TC was just like, oh, no, not at all. I thought that was perfect. And I just didn't anticipate that cymbal crash. But but yeah, we got to see Jesse kind of lure and kind of use his tactics on this vice principal. And
we see Hal's backstory to kind of, which I love. We'll talk a little bit later about how this book ends and how the editing for this is just so perfect. But I love that it is still, the morality is there, because Hal is this teacher, the science teacher who's gunning for vice principal, but he's basically tricked a junior into...
Right. I actually have a question about that, because it was very suspicious what his story of the whole junior having, like, she's so into him and it's like so much that he can't quite stand it. It made me think they actually gave her a love potion so she would go after the vice principal, and it was also they can eventually make this deal with the vice principal to get his soul.
Oh, wow.
I feel like because there was, as soon as he was like, oh, it's like she all of a sudden sees me as ugly now, and he's like, yep.
I just thought that was that's what they did. I took it at face value that she actually was just a young girl who became obsessed with somebody who was telling her that he was going to leave his wife You know, he's saying, like, you know, he was out with Jeannie, his wife or whatever, but
Yeah.
that now girls will believe anything. But now that he's gone in for this vice principal position, he needs to kind of put the kibosh on this. I didn't really go as deep.
That's how I read it too.
Right.
I mean, it's possible, given how evil we've seen the Langels to be. I wouldn't be surprised to find out them going around planting these seeds.
Yeah.
But part of me also thinks that we're just supposed to, I think with this show, we're supposed to see a lot of the depravity of humanity. And I think we're just supposed to believe that there's enough people in bad situations that want to take the cheap magic easy way out, that they don't have to create these situations. These situations just come to them. And they're just taking advantage of it.
True.
You know what I mean,
It's
like
actually-
they're just providing a service to the people out there that either they just want to.
A literal magic pill to, not actual pill, but
Yeah.
metaphorical magic pill that is literal magic to take away their problems.
Right. And it actually is kind of more dramatic to have him just be this lecherous guy who's like tricking this girl into it. So maybe
Because
that is really what
Jesse
happened.
feels that he justifies it because, you know, in his sense, he's still moral. Is he's beating this guy up and he's taking him. He's not sure. He's still thinking, you know, he's going to rip out his fingernails or something to some degree.
Yeah.
He's not understanding that she's going to eat his soul to stay alive. This is the first time he's ever seen her use this machine. So it's my understanding that he's thinking, look, we're punishing this guy. It's going to be a somewhat equal footing because he does feel that he has done wrong. This is what you get for convincing a young girl.
Right.
I'm not.
Well-
I'm not sold that that's his impetus.
I don't think it's his impetus. I think it's that he's part of this family, and this is him showing how good he is at the task that he's given.
Yeah.
But in his mind, he's justifying it because these are corrupt people who are
Yeah.
using this magic to make these problems that they've created go away. Even though he
Well-
does manipulate Hal, because Hal at one point is like, look, I'll come clean. And he's like, well, if you do, you're going to basically end up in jail. And that's going to keep you from getting the vice
That's
principal
what I really
position.
liked about the scene, because I felt they showed the complexity of it, because they did show that Jesse almost warned him away from even doing this. Jesse almost said, like, you shouldn't do this. It's really dangerous. You really have to pay up. It's worse than pulling out your fingers. I think that's the best you can kind of hope for, is the finger thing. He even had a sense of that, even though he's never seen it actually happen. And then when he starts to fade, he was like, oh no, I need to do this for the family, or I need to, like, probably to keep himself from not being beaten. He's in this abusive relationship that he has.
And
to
he's
kind
been
of-
there at this point for about 5 or 6 years,
Right,
based
yeah.
on what we know from last season. So, I mean, he's deep in it. He
He's
knows
deep.
he's not getting out for, in his mind, probably the foreseeable future.
Yeah, that's his life.
So,
He's part of the family business now.
yeah.
Well, it seems like he especially, I think it was alluded to this episode, that the only thing that's going to get him free is for her to say the words, you can go, kind of thing, of to let go of.
She owns him.
And right. But I mean, even specifically the way that he words it, just like, if you want someone to say something, you just have to ask them the right question, kind of thing, is basically him saying, when I get my power back, I'm going to make you
100%.
say it, and then that's how I'm going to get out of this.
100%.
So, right. So I thought it was cool that he kind of snuck that in there. Yeah, really interesting to get more information. I mean, again, this speaks to the pace, because we're looking at, like, last episode we got this mystery of what is the machine, and now we know. We
see
still
what the
don't
machine
know.
is.
We don't know exactly. We don't know what happens when she sucks the souls out of people. Is she, like, eating them? Or do they get destroyed? Or
they
they just
say that
sitting?
she eats them, and that's how she stays young.
Well, they said, like, that's how she stays young, but they might also use it as kind of a barter system too.
Yeah,
Like,
or is it like a battery,
Well, I
or is it
think-
does she just have an amalgamation of a bunch of people's souls inside of her?
I
now?
feel like that ties into kind of the bookend of later what we see with
Right.
the tombs. That's what was alluded to last week, was that when this guy escaped and we were wondering, what does it mean when she says go put him with the others, we now know is that these people are being tortured, and as their physical forms are being disfigured, and he's been trapped. We'll circle back to this later as well.
Well,
but
yeah, I mean, or we could even just
Yeah, we
say
can
that at the
definitely
end
know.
he's stuck in the. We see that the vice principal is still in the tombs. That is the vice principal that kind of comes up out of the shadows, and he just says, "I can do nothing for you." So it shows, and it happens right after there's a moment where Tulip says, "Well, he's not as bad as them." And because of that flashback, we see that he can be as bad as them, and we see what happens to the people that he puts there. and they're still there, and for some reason. Maybe they're just kind of treating them like a farm animal and just milking the soul out of them until there's nothing left.
That's what it seems to be, because that's how she's still alive and still going.
Right.
But it seems to me that she's, I mean, clearly we know that the farm's not operating as it was before. And I think because of that, she doesn't have as many souls as she needs. And that's why she's in the wheelchair now, and she looks...
Well, that's why she asked Jesse to open up the tombs. And there's this great scene where they're talking and they're going back and forth. And the scene where she's basically saying, I own you, I have you here.
Right.
And he's saying, I'm going to escape. I'm going to get out of here. And she's like, well, I know you're going to try.
Yeah.
And then just the super creepy, now give me a kiss, now get to work.
We also see that she says, well, you're going to bring in more people.
Yeah, you're going to we're going to reopen the tombs. You're going to keep bringing these people to me. I'm going to suck out their soul, which, I mean, it seems like he's committed to that at this point.
Right. Well, he has no choice, because we also see what happens when he, we see what power she has over him. Because at one point she thinks he's totally escaped, and she holds the cloth with his blood on it and chokes
the blood
it.
compact that she has, and
we see
chokes
basically voodooing the heck out of him.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a voodoo-y voodoo doll.
Yeah. That whole the whole family comes from a very strong voodoo kind of witch power,
which we see echoed too when they're the fight with the Boyds. Is that this is a voodoo,
when they send the goat,
a voodoo telegram, as they call it, is, why are they shooting goats at us?
I still feel like the Boyds did not, when they go after the Boyds, because the first opening shot was Jesse sending a little car bomb over, which is that could hurt someone. That's a pretty extreme act, and their response is to shoot a goat at him.
Yeah,
I mean, turn around and leave.
Yeah, I didn't feel like it was that big enough. I mean, they said
because we know that voodoo is intense here, because we see that later to echo with the handkerchief, is that they don't have to physically do anything right now. If there's a warning that we want Jesse Custer dead, this is something that's serious in the voodoo community. Is this is a telegram? We're gunning for you. It
struck me as the Boyds were not as powerful as the Langels, and what it was them being kind of like the puppy's just pawing at the lion. It's just kind of this moment where they're trying to do something that shows they're angry, but they know they really don't have a chance against them.
We know that they're not as good, because we even have Hal say that's brilliant exposition. This is what I love about this show, is that the exposition is so perfectly written into the dialogue. You never feel like anything is pandering to the audience. You never feel like anything is just trying to be explanatory to... But
they're also a little ahead of us, which was nice. How we saw the Boyds last week. We didn't know who the Boyds are. It was very unclear. There was even a question of do we know who they are? I'm not sure. And today we now know those are the Boyds. We know that they're also in the same business. We know that they're just not just drug dealers, that they also are in the soul voodoo business as well.
Yeah, and what he says in that flashback is that the Boyds are cheaper, but they're not as good as the Langels. So, and also that gives us too that it's a long history with them. It's not like the Boyds just came into town a few weeks ago.
These are years. Family rivals, and blood runs deep in this town. So it also is nice because we see that scene with the toy car that Tulip is talking about. She hasn't made one since she was a kid, and we see Cass basically just ask, keep driving, run away with me, let's just keep going, we dropped the bomb from the toy car, now he's dropping the bomb in the real car. He's just asking to bounce, and she ultimately shoots him down. We've been seeing this love triangle, and we've been seeing this hostility between the two guys since this confession that Cass has slept with Jesse's girl, Tulip.
Yeah.
And Tulip says, I don't know what's going on with you guys, but cool it. Get over it. We're in this together. Jesse literally sold his soul for us. It's not his plan that we've gotten sucked into. It's our plan. Even though Cass, I feel, is a little bit justified in feeling that he's been roped into a plan that he didn't want to be a part of. He didn't want any more Jesse Custer plans.
One thing that's nice to see is they're doing a lot of legwork on making the Cass-Tulip relationship kind of feel like almost a healthier relationship, which is weird. It's weird right now. And we kind of know that the Jesse-Tulip relationship is so strong that they need to build up that relationship more between Cass and Tulip in order to keep this kind of triangle strong.
Yeah, because it's Cass is saying, you know, I'm not going to leave. Jesse basically flat out asks him to go. Says, you know, it's time for you to go. And he says, I'm not leaving without Tulip.
Yeah, and that's why, like, the best scenes are also of this episode were the ones between Tulip and Cass, where you have, like, they talk about the Big Lebowski again, and the whole Miller's Crossing thing, and she's like, I'm not going to get into this again with you. That was great. And then just the back and forth when he's, like, after he was shot and he's on the ground.
That's the big thing, is that if it was just one-sided, with Cass, it would not be enough of a plot to push, because she flat out says, I love you, Cass.
Yeah, but that's as a friend.
It's a friend. Yeah. It's a different kind of love.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't feel that there's any sort of hope, in his mind, he's grasping onto anything that he's getting, and he's feeling, you know, ultimately... friend zone. But he just feels that she's going to see that it is a healthier relationship. She's not.
It also is... It isn't a healthier relationship if you really think about it, because it's also, if you really look at Cass and you spend a long time looking at him, you realize he's someone who's very lonely, is hitching upon the first wagon that even is nice to him, and it wouldn't work out. Like, it's not the strongest relationship, but right now it seems like, oh wow, Cass is a nice guy. You just forget, oh, he's also a burnout, he's in terrible shape, a vampire,
a murderer.
I think a lot of it too with Cass comes from his disagreements with Jesse also, and seeing how Jesse treats Tulip. I think a lot of it also, it's not just his desire for her, but also then not just the envy, but like, I could do it better, I could treat her better, you're not good for her. I think that further even pushes him towards that.
It's also, I mean, at this point too, he's just killed his own son. He really is his only last tie to feeling like he has some sort of family. So to him, this is kind of the closest thing he has to family.
Well, we saw it last season. He was desperately hoping to have this connection with his son. And now that his son is gone, he's looking for someone to have a connection with.
So it just makes sense that it would be something that's so intense that it becomes this obsession. So I don't think Cass is going anywhere.
So while we're talking about Cass, Ivan Soto has a question in the chat. He wants to know if we're going to talk about the fact that the Langels don't know Cassidy is a vampire.
That's true. That's true. They don't. I feel like they probably suspect.
I think they might have an idea and maybe not be sure. I think just because we think they don't know or they haven't shown us that they know doesn't mean that they don't know.
I do have to say there was something that has the feeling of foreshadowing in this episode, and this isn't something that's in the I don't believe it's in the comics, so it's not necessarily a spoiler, but I think it is something we should pay attention to, is that image he was looking at and was like, ugh, when he was on the stairway, and they just had an image of a man hanging upside down and burning on a tree. Oh. And it was Cass looking at it, and Cass is one that's likely to burn maybe later. Yeah. That's an interesting foreshadowing for something that might happen to him later, but I'm not sure about that. That's not a spoiler. That's just a guess about what might happen. And I think that who knows if they'll like vampires or they'll hate vampires. It's hard to tell.
I feel like at this point, I think Jody kind of suspects. I think TC doesn't at all. I mean, the whole scene where I know, but it's so I love that his comic relief in this when he's like, you know, just hold on, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, and he's like, they're running. He's like, okay, I'll be back. Just immediately bounces.
I actually really like how they've kind of in the same way that they have made Tulip an actual character. Yeah, it seems like Jody and TC are actually going to be characters, which is actually really interesting if you think about the history between the family and stuff, outside of them just being these, you know, 1-2 note scary guy, comedy guy. Yeah, in the comics, it's nice to see them actually kind of be people, and especially with Jody too. Like, he's still ominous and plainly a bad dude, but also I kind of get like a feeling vibe, like an uncle vibe of him from the way he even interacts with Tulip in this episode too.
I love the scenes that he has with Tulip. I think that really shows I think kind of a somewhat moral dilemma that is, we are seeing these characters to a more depth where it's not just these two-dimensional henchmen, and Jesse point blank says, I'm going to kill all of them when the time comes. I'm
Right.
killing every single one of them. Like, don't worry, we're mowing them all down. But we just have to wait right now because we then see when Tulip is with Jody shooting that Featherstone's been watching them.
Yeah.
The spies and the mitts. She wants to go ahead.
Well, before we dive too much into Featherstone, I just want to say one thing I really like about those scenes is I think it's playing off the idea of abusive family and toxic family, and like the idea that you can come from a family that is tough and abusive and terrible for you, but at the same time you could still love them, and that's where that abuse makes it hard to escape, is because there is a love there. There's a familial love between TC and the friends, and also and Jody and the friends. Like it's all there, and I like that they're playing off of that.
I feel like they have a really, really good way of delving into these characters and giving us just enough to make us feel emotional connections, but also understand that they are somewhat horrific people. I mean, not just somewhat, they are flat out horrific people. They have an organ grinder to just,
You know what? As soon as he brought that up, I expected like a, and I was like, oh no, that's grinding organs.
Yeah, that's a different kind of.
Really graphic.
It was really it made me really sad because I love raccoons.
I know, and the turtle too. Like, come on, what did the turtle ever do to anyone?
What the turtle
You're
ever
just
do?
hanging out.
Yeah, raccoons, all right, they get in your trash.
Yeah, they look
But
like
it's
robbers.
a literal like kick the dog moment. They always say in a script, if you really want to make somebody a villain, you make them kick a dog.
That's true.
Well, none of them were dogs. I think they
Toss
made
a
a point.
turtle and
The turtle and raccoon, if they tossed the dog in there, they would have probably lost more audience.
yeah, I think that's the line.
Yeah.
The swamp.
Oh yeah, the swamp
Consomme.
I love that Tulip was eating that earlier. But
But he
also I
makes
kept
it
thinking,
willingly for Grandma. Grandma's all about it. She's like, yeah, heat it
Yeah.
up.
Oh my god, when he smelled her colostomy bag,
Ugh.
I was like, oh yeah, you
smell
need more
the
protein.
serotonin.
Serotonin levels are up. I love that. I love that how he knows.
Oh, man.
I love that the show is brilliant and at the same time literally has people smelling shit.
Oh yeah, I mean it's
mean-
Seth Rogen, so you know it's poop jokes.
Yeah, but it's
somewhere in
also it's a really good adaptation
most
because of
brilliant
that.
way.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like the comic is disgusting.
Yep.
Yeah.
And very amoral. And they've even turned it, like, one thing I will say about the comics right now is, like, TC, his one-note joke is that he just has sex with lots of animals. And the fact that this TC is, like, a human being that they're having a lot more fun with and is a lot funnier than the comic is great.
Yeah.
And he
I
and
love that.
Cass bonding over drugs.
Yeah.
Just like,
Do you like
do you
drugs?
like gummy
Oh,
bears?
yeah.
Yeah,
That big
any
of
other
gummy bears?
show, the direction would just be like, all right, so you're just gonna play this when he says drugs. It's like a bell went off in your head. But in this show, no, literally
No, a literal
a
bell.
I'm just glad this isn't like, if this was Rob Zombie's Preacher or something, all you would see is just these hillbillies being like, and that's it. They're just disgusting, scary creatures.
Yep.
But they're a lot more in this, which is great.
I do like that, that they really explore the depth of this and that they now have them on the mission to kill off these people from the Grail Featherstone because
Right.
they're like, Grandma asks, who are these people? These are the people who killed Tulip. We're going to go kill them. Great. Dump them in the swamp.
I did not expect Featherstone so quickly. I did that. It surprised me when I saw Featherstone was in this episode.
I wasn't expecting that either. I was pretty taken
I didn't
aback.
expect them to meet. I thought we would meet Featherstone and Hoover, but somewhere else, and it would be about them eventually meeting them again. I didn't expect them to be in the bushes right away.
Yeah,
and
like Team Rocket style. Just no, we're
Team
back.
Rocket,
I know
yeah.
you took us out last week, but we're blasting off for more.
And they did a good job of like, what did she see? What is there? What is she attacking? Oh, it's Featherstone.
Yeah.
Thought that was great.
The way that it was shot is just, the cinematography too is just
Yeah.
perfect in
Great
this
fight
episode.
scene. Speaking of the Grail.
Oh my god. So so Jesse finally calls. He leaves the message that
Hairstyle.
the Messiah is ready. And this I love too because we even see this after the first commercial break. It's just this little tidbit of India and we see the Krishna headquarters, but that's it.
Right.
And then we dive into the rest of the plot of the A and B storylines, and then it circles back to, oh, we're all back at this place we're worshiping, but actually it's the Grail killing everybody because join, humper do, or die.
Can I say
Literally, humper do or die.
Humper do or die? One of my nice little cameo in this was Dave Allen as the Swami and he played the guidance counselor in Freaks and Geeks.
Yep.
Oh,
So he goes way
gosh.
back with Rogen. And he's in a bunch of other stuff
he's
too.
a
He's in
big
like
character actor. One of my favorites.
yeah, what is it? Naked
I
Naked
forgot that he was
something
from
and
Freaks
Trucker.
and Geeks,
Yeah,
though.
yeah, I forgot about
That he's in
That's
that
him
with
too.
Dave Koechner. Him and had like a comedy duo where it was the Naked Trucker and someone else, and he was the Naked Trucker, and he always just had like a guitar over his junk, and that would be the comedy.
That
duo.
was the bit.
That was it.
So I hate to be negative Nancy, but while I liked the cinematography a lot of the scene and I liked how beautiful it looked, I thought the action was not great, especially with some of the great choreography that we've seen on the show.
Did you think it was too much? It was too Matrixy?
I think it was too Matrixy. The pacing wasn't great. Too many guys with guns in their hands trying to hit Hairstar with the guns instead of trying to shoot him. Like literally, like 6 guys are like, here, let me hit you with my
Yeah.
gun when I'm standing right here instead of trying to shoot. Like it just.
I guess it was just so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Is why
Yeah.
I liked it.
I
It
just-
kind of felt like
I mean, and
I
also
just
just,
feel like it
showing
could've
that he
been-
would, my gun's out, all right, well, I'll sacrifice my own man.
That
just
also
to...
too, like really cool an idea, but I thought the choreography, especially for that bit, was just not good.
But I mean, because it's supposed to be so ridiculous,
then
because we
I'd-
see, like, Join Us and the
yeah.
challenged All-American
Yeah.
Rejects lead singer that we have as
Right.
our messiah,
Yeah.
or we
That's
will
right,
murder
up for
you.
due.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like...
I just liked it because I think if it was Jesse and Cass there, it would be a lot more badass and it
Yeah.
would be a lot like cooler. I think because it was Hairstar and a bunch of nobodies we don't really know, I think that's why it was okay for it to be Matrix and
Okay.
ridiculous. But
Because
like,
it is
I'm
the
right-
henchman. It's the
I just feel
two-dimensional
like
thing. It's
if-
not. We're not killing anybody with depth that way.
Right. But
Yeah.
I just feel like I think they're trying too hard to make Hairstar a badass where like he is kind of like this, I mean, at least how I see the character is this big, larger than life threatening figure, but not like a Bond born style guy. Like I
Well,
would have liked it
Bond,
if it was
but-
more over the top and he was just like not Bond, more Bond villain maybe, but not Bond. That's
I
what
think
I mean.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
He's not Odd Job. He's
Yes.
the Bond.
Yeah.
like,
I would have just
villain.
rather they
He's
just
quiet.
went more over the top. Like if he's gonna do that, just have him just spin around shooting wildly, but it just happens to hit everybody, or he just mows
Yeah.
down people with like an M60 or something.
I mean,
know,
he's
I
definitely a
liked it.
guy that's better at like walking rather than like fighting.
Yeah.
But it's, I
Either
thought
way,
it was okay.
the
But it's
camera
because-
angles and stuff were really cool.
Yeah.
The overhead shot,
Yeah.
and there was some really cool angles, very John Woo-esque. I did enjoy it.
But I think maybe they also know, like, if they shoot him, we saw how that works. It doesn't work. So I mean, they're hitting him with guns because they know that's the Grail. Maybe.
It's just so many good fight scenes. Like even last episode, the fight between Jesse and Cass was
That's
so
true.
good. The last season when the Grail was the kidnapping by the van, that fight was amazing.
This, though, we do see more of the Grail with Jesse, you know, finally saying, I'm going to be the Messiah, just so trying to trick him.
Right. To get
The
that soul.
eat your own dick scene.
This had a lot of good catch up, by the way, this episode. You were talking about how the first one tends to be catch up. This had a lot of good catch up just because I didn't even realize we didn't try to hear his voice like last week.
Yeah, having
You know?
the car, having him try it first with the car and it not
Yeah.
work.
And just to be
then
reminded,
the placebo,
right, his
yeah.
voice is messed up.
Yeah.
He needs his soul in order to make it work. I kind of forgot that was a point, so it was nice to see
And the
it
chicken
again.
crossing the road too, just the actual visual flashback or callback to
Yeah.
last season that was so brilliantly executed.
I think that was our first confirmation too that the reason why the voice isn't working is because he's missing part of his soul.
part of his
I think
Yeah.
it was kind of hinted at last season. We were guessing that's why.
I mean, that's also why he's guessing too. I think
Right.
that's what he's assuming is wrong. Maybe we'll find out he'll get his soul back and something else is wrong.
Well, but even then, it okay. That's a good question though. So then, was it not working at all when he was
I
trying it?
gotta
or was it-
rewatch to see when it stopped working because
No,
I feel
mean,
like
in this episode when he gets it from Hairstar, the placebo one. So was he just pretending
He was
to follow?
pretending.
Yes,
but
he
the
was
but the
pretending.
voice was actually going.
It was
Yeah.
a placebo. That's why it sounded like it was a genetically modified placebo. So
Okay.
it made it sound as if it was working. That's other.
it
If
was
it
actually
wasn't a
working.
genetically
Okay.
modified
Oh.
one, then it wouldn't have done anything. It wouldn't have had the effects without the actual effects.
Got it.
to
Okay.
me that was just like he thought it was working, so that's why we hear it working.
Okay.
And then it started to break up towards the end. I don't think it. Yeah,
I think it actually did. I think that was a literal that this is how it was. How you would have heard it, how he heard it too, is that it's a genetically modified version, so that Jesse actually believes it. His voice really does change when he's Genesis.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Because we hear people hear it differently.
Yeah,
and react. So
I just mean I think it's more of it was more of like a metaphor, his voice changing and not changing, rather than like, I don't know, just because I feel like it's when he wasn't. I like the idea that maybe he thought it was working, so that's why we're hearing it straight. And then, like, if the fact it wasn't really working is kind of proven later. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's really just the science of the Grail and what they're able to genetically modify.
Right, it's just like...
And the level is like, do they have the technology?
Make sure to put in more whippet in this so his voice can get lower down to where it's supposed to be.
But ultimately... the plan is thwarted. The plan that he explains to Tulip and Cass that they are now, a part of, is that he is going to get his soul back, and then they're going to come for him. Tulip sees the empty container. She just assumes. And this I love, too, because we've been seeing everybody ask Tulip about purgatory. Why do people keep asking me about that? Why do people keep asking me about what happened when I died? I don't remember. But we see these little flashes, too, of God Dog.
She does remember God Dog.
Yeah, she remembers a little something at the end, but we also see this subconscious level that's brought in when she echoes her purgatory father's voice is, why can't I do one thing right?
Right.
And now I have the obligation. I got to fix this. I got to get these sons of bitches. This is what I was told to do, and now I have to make this right.
Do you think, now my question is, do you think that God Dog used his own Genesis voice, his own God voice, to kind of put that into Tulip? And if so, like, who are the sons of bitches? Is it just anyone she hates she's going to go after?
We see that the Grail is going to, basically, we see that he has an all-father. He's not the boss man. He has a top boss. He's not his boss. He's his all-father, which this is another thing that we get these little references that we feel like we're probably going to dive into a lot more later on. But he is planning a secret coup. And if we're going to have this secret coup against the Grail, then we're assuming God is probably not into this secret coup. And this is probably, he is sending, potentially Tulip to get these sons of bitches.
That's a pretty righteous God who's trying to like cut down the Grail, and that's what it kind of seems like right now, but it could be something else.
Interesting. That could be a possibility. I don't know. I feel like with what we've seen, especially with the way that her star was even in this episode was talking about God, like being gone. I don't think he really cares what the Grail is doing as much as I think he just wants to disrupt Jesse from finding him. So if disrupting the Grail disrupts Jesse from being able to get out and find God,
well, it's more that he wants his own savior that he can kind of be a part of and get behind rather than Humperdew. He's trying to find
God or Hair Star?
Hair Star.
Hair Star.
Right. I'm saying that Hair Star wants to...
He's trying to hitch his Hair Star.
I'm sorry. I'm saying that God wants to stop Jesse from finding God. So that's why he would intervene with Hair Star. That's just how I'm reading it, is that
possibly.
I don't personally, I don't think God cares about Humperdew or any of that stuff. I think that's why he left, because he's just like, look.
Well, then, do you guys want to maybe roll into some predictions? Any last thoughts on this episode before we head in?
I just thought it was great and curious to see where it goes.
Yeah, well, let's talk about where it might go. Let's talk about some predictions.
Your AfterBuzz TV
predictions. All right. Well, I think we're definitely going to see the Allfather. I think that's definitely coming up, and I'm excited to see the Allfather. I'm curious to see what happens with like I don't know. I like how he's playing with the Grail and how he's going back and forth, and I'm curious to see how he's going to use the Grail to get out of this situation. What's your prediction?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see now how he's going to get contact with the Grail again. I'm predicting I think we're gonna get at least a few episodes of Jesse in full on bad Langell mode, which I think will be interesting to see.
I'm also really, It's so interesting to see Jesse in this show because he's someone who's struggling with being good, and he hasn't quite. He's not the hero he is in the books, but I think that's because they have to make a more complex character. But he's so. I really can't wait for him to get out of this season because I feel like after this is the season that's going to harden him until it's like until he's a real badass hero by the end.
Yeah, I think this is where we're going to get his redemption in this season. I think that's part of the reason why they've been kind of breaking him down and showing him to be flawed, so that when the change comes about, it'll be a big change and it'll be actually meaningful.
So I'm also curious, I guess, like, not any soul will do. Like, he can't just take someone's little piece of soul to fill in his soul hole.
Yeah, well, we saw that last season, is that they had the whole truck full of different souls, and there's this one particular soul, and only Jesse's was the one that worked, which is why you had to give it. So we know how
They have
rare
different types,
this
like blood
soul
types.
is.
Right,
Yeah,
so it's
so we
very
know
rare.
how rare this is, that this one company that has every soul that has ever been, this mass-produced, putting all of the Boyds, the Lungels, everybody out of business. They have everything. They don't have it. Where the hell are you going to get it?
Right.
I think Jesse is also. I think Genesis has like fused to his soul. I think that's what makes it special. So I
he's
think
got a little bit of Genesis in his soul.
right, but also he's got a little bit of Genesis missing. I think
Yeah.
is the other thing too.
Yeah, so unless it's a complete entity, it's not going to work. So I feel like he's going to get back in touch with the Grail via Tulip. I think she is going to have this obligation. I think Dog God kind of put this in the head. I think because Purgatory was laid out as a play, this is literally a play that he is showing her that he wants her to echo in these future things.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot more lines that are echoes of things that we had when she was in Purgatory, and it's going to kind of develop that mission. I think probably we're not only going to see the All-Father, but we're going to see an epic, hopefully perfectly choreographed fight scene that will be maybe a little less ridiculous and a little bit more intense.
I'm confident. I'm not. It didn't
I also
ruin my enjoyment.
I also really want Arseface and Hitler.
I really want
2
Arseface and
episodes and
Hitler.
nothing from them,
So I think that they're
They're
really
come out swinging.
they're gonna focus on Angelville for a while for this one.
I have a feeling that we're gonna get a little bit of this season, but it's gonna be like they're just gonna come in, at the right time, in the middle of whatever's like some crazy tense moment with Jesse or something. I think that's what's gonna happen with them. But we'll see. Hopefully not. I want to see him sooner rather than later.
I agree. I would like to see more of both of those characters. I think we're going to see a lot of really, really good stuff. I think we're going to definitely see more with the Boyds, and I'm just excited to see what's to come.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, where can everybody keep up with you guys to let them know?
Oh, you can find me at mrdavechild or davechild.com for all your Dave Child needs, because I'm Dave Child.
What's up, guys? Nate Miller here. You can find me on all social media at DogLikeNate.
And I'm Alana Jordan. You can find me on Twitter at Alana Jordan and on Instagram at That Alana Jordan Girl. You can catch us all here at AfterBuzz TV. Be sure to subscribe to iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube. Give us the thumbs up. Leave us some comments. We love hearing from you guys. And we are going to wrap up here, but stick around because after we say goodbye, we're going to give some spoilers here from the comics. We don't want to ruin it for anybody who doesn't want to hear it.
So if you're a comic book fan, please stay, because we have the stuff you want to hear.
If you don't want to hear it, farewell. We'll see you next week. If you do want to hear it, keep listening, baby.
Yeah. All right.
Executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek,
We don't
and the
need all
entire
this.
AfterBuzz team.
All right.
All right, cool.
They're out of the
So,
room. Okay,
spoiler
everyone's
time.
out of the room.
Spoiler time.
Spoiler alert.
There we go. Okay.
Spoiler alert.
So,
Spoiler alert.
one thing I was hoping we were going to see, and I don't know if we're going to see it yet, is I was hoping that was maybe Hairstar's scar in his head.
Yeah.
Did you think maybe that was it when he got shot in
Maybe
his head?
it did remind me of a panel where he got wounded someplace. I need to go back and
I
look
do
at
hope
it.
that's like an intentional thing Jesse can do, because he does that in the comics where he puts a scar, he purposely kind of makes Hairstar's head look like look like a penis head.
Yeah.
Which I hope that and I'm sure they're going to do that.
I feel
looked like he got
positive they're
cut.
going to.
It looked like he got shot right in the middle.
right?
Yeah.
So maybe next episode that can be like, oh, I got a dickhead.
He's got a
Yeah.
scar.
Do
Maybe.
'Cause I love that panel in the comic where it's just him trying on hats, trying to
To
hide
his
the dick
dickhead.
scar.
Yeah.
It's great.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There
that is. I
He's
feel
wearing
like
the
that
hat.
is. They're really good about fan service
Yeah.
things. If there's moments
Even
that you
certain
really,
things.
really like, I feel like they're gonna find a way to tie it in.
Even the eat your dick moment. I
Yes.
was like,
I know,
It
same.
might come later. It
Oh
might-
yeah. I don't know if we'll see it, but
Yeah.
I don't
the
think we
seeds
will.
are planted.
They-
This might be their nod of like, look, we know you guys want to do this, but
Yeah.
we're on AMC. It's not HBO.
Right.
Yeah. They typically just have the good cutaway with the awesome audio engineering that you're like, I can see it in my head. I can hear it. I
Yeah.
don't even need to.
Yeah, I am curious about. The Allfather was dropped, and I do know from some of the ads from it that the Allfather is just as big in this as he is in the comic. So I am curious to see him, and I'm very excited about that. I was very excited to see him. There's that one where the camera pulls out and you see every character that's like involved in this season,
Yeah.
and you see a big Allfather just like chowing down on a leg of lamb. So I'm really curious to see him. I'm excited for him to come up. So you were talking about God before,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think you have the God in the comics in your head, and I'm
I
wondering
do.
if they're changing, if God's going to change for the show.
I mean, I feel like the idea that God has kind of given up is so central to the story.
Right,
That-
and running scared from a human.
Right. And I would be, to be honest, I'd be upset if his plan is to stop Jesse because he wants Humperdew to become the Messiah.
No,
like
I don't think that's what it is. I don't think he cares one way or the other.
Okay.
I think he
think
just
you're
doesn't
right.
give
Yeah.
a crap. I think he's like, look, I'm out. Like, leave me alone. I'm
Right.
doing my own thing. Just let me be. Just
I
let me do
definitely
my own
think-
thing. But I think
I like how they're teasing that though. It could seem like he just wants the Grail gone because Grail's not very good for
Right.
God business. But I do hope that it is going to build up to make it clear that he's just running scared from Jesse. But I think by that point Jesse has to be someone who God would run away scared from, and he's not
yet.
there yet.
Yeah. No.
And I'm curious to see.
what happens.
I wonder if he's gonna get there before he loses an eye. That's what
I wonder if that might have to do with how he gets out of this situation.
It might, maybe. It is curious. I love how they're changing things around. I love this. I love the angels,
Well, yeah.
Legends, because
Langels.
they're all voodoo-y, and I like how they're that instead of gaudy.
I mean,
I love
yeah.
too seeing Hal with the sewed up eye this episode
yeah.
too. It was
Yeah.
just
I love the way that they have been fleshing out the characters TC and Jody.
Yeah.
I just
fleshing them out and
I know,
fleshing
right?
them together.
Oh
Fleshing-
god.
oh.
I just really love the idea of really crazy super Christians that have
That's a
this
real
deal
drum kit,
with
by the way.
God
Yeah.
that allows them to like I really liked that thing, so I don't know. I'm still kind of on the fence.
But you also have Grail, which is like, Vatican.
it's kind of the same. Yeah, so I see why
It's
they
on steroids.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even just for the sake of like a different setting, the whole voodoo thing with New Orleans, like it helps
good.
with the realism too, because
Yeah.
it's a live action show. It's not a
Yeah.
comic book. It's not colors on page.
Right, and also one thing I want to say before we totally wrap is I feel like they're building up for the Cass relationship between him and Tulip. I think that's going to become even more tragic somehow than the
Oh,
comics.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be even more heart wrenching because having the visuals and having just how
Yeah.
brilliantly too that it's acted.
When he goes too far, it's going to be
Oh yeah.
it's going to be heart wrenching.
Yep.
And I
don't even know what else they're trying to have him do this season. What his kind of plot line is yet.
Yeah.
I do miss the bromance, though. I feel like we only had a very short amount of bromance
Mm-hmm.
before it became like him going after Tulip.
An issue.
And
yeah.
I kind of wish there was a bit more of a friendship between Jesse and him. But maybe they'll find room for
agree.
that, but I'm not sure. Anyways,
I feel like
right.
this. Yeah.
that's it for us.
We'll be here all night talking about
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, for all the comic book fans. Catch us all later.
Bye guys.
I'm Dave Child.
I'm Nate still.
And I'm still Alana Jordan, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye-bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
The views expressed herein are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.